Well, welcome back, everybody. Day 4 of Rhythm and Resilience. And I would love to hear in the chat today kind of about what you've been adding into your routine this week from our guests or what inspiration you've gotten. We've talked about having 5 days. And as I mentioned earlier on, and I'll repeat because we've got new people on the webinar today or the Zoom today, is that was thinking about my own life. And, I'm pretty self-full. And I think about, oh gosh, how can my tribe help me build rhythm and resilience? And if I need it, I'm guessing that you probably need it as well. So I started thinking about words because words really matter and started about, okay, well, we could do Monday, Motivational Monday. And we heard from John O'Leary this week. And if you're like me, he didn't disappoint. And then we did Total Health Tuesday and we had Shemaine. And I've been thinking, has anybody been holding and doing some meridian work on themselves? And then yesterday we had Britt Frank and on Wisdom Wednesdays. And today on Thursday, we're having Talk Story Thursday. And so it's interesting to think about what is Talk Story in the first place. And so I've picked the best person I know to talk about Talk Story. I didn't have to look too far, just so you know. But today joining me on Rhythm and Resilience is Crystal Jenkins. Crystal specializes in wellness and behavioral counseling for individuals and groups. She's experienced in treating a wide range of psychological issues with adults and children. She has been a teacher and coach for over 30 years, and she has a love for speaking, teaching, boating, sun, and coaching others to find their path to freedom and clarity. Hey, Crystal, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, I had to get unmuted. Yeah. Hi. This is fun.
It's been a ton of fun this week, and just a couple reminders, housekeeping. Please keep yourself muted. If you have questions for Crystal or myself, or just want to give any love out to kind of what you've been doing this week to help yourself, feel free to put it in the chat section. Eleanor is monitoring the chat section for us today and every day. So, Crystal, let's get started. So, yes. When you think of the word rhythm and resilience, what do you think about from a psychological perspective?
Well, it's interesting that I think you came up with the two of those words together, is that rhythm does build resilience. And when we can find a rhythm in our life, a rhythm in music, a rhythm in nature, something that feels comfortable and supports us, we get through things a lot easier. And it builds the resilience to withstand big storms and big life changes, such as what we're going through now. So the rhythm is finding a routine, but not just a routine, but a routine that actually fits you, fits your system, fits what you love and care about, which is most important.
How has COVID affected your rhythm as a psychologist?
Well, first of all, it changed how I practiced. I have two careers in my life. One is teaching the Hoffman process, and the other is as a psychotherapist in private practice, seeing people face to face on the couch in my office. So immediately, those two things changed. The processes that we do in California for the Hoffman Institute were put on pause and on hold. I had just come back from teaching the last week-long experiential process in California and came back to changing my therapy practice to video conferencing. So everything changed. And at the same time, lots of things didn't change. I'm still helping and talking and listening people. So that's the good news.
Well, I want to dive in a little bit for our listeners that don't know. I'm a huge Hoffman fan. I did the process when I was 31 a couple decades ago, and it really shifted my life and helped me start to value how I show up, not only for others, but for myself. And so huge fan of the Hoffman process, and it breaks my heart that they're not able to do it in person right now. But Hoffman is also pivoted, and they're helping more people. Talk a little bit about Hoffman. That's question one. Question two would be, people might be getting triggered right now to some old patterns. And so what are some tools? And then we'll come to the third question afterwards. We'll make it a first question.
Okay. So, well, first of all, Hoffman it's a transformational process that takes 7 days of adults to soul search, to heal, and develop from the things that have happened in their past. So for people who want personal change, they want to examine your life and your behavior, this is what adults would come and do to find lasting changes in their life. Self-love, self-compassion, making peace with your past, releasing from negative behaviors and negative thoughts, and to discover their authentic selves and being able to practice living a more authentic life and improving relationships. So the Hoffman Institute's been in process and operation for over 55 years. It's in 13 different countries in the world. And we run a week-long process about every other week. So, and a process takes about 35 to 40 individuals, adults, through an experiential learning week. So that is on pause because no longer can we meet in large groups. But what's happened from that is that in the last 3 or 4 weeks that social distancing and sheltering at home has come to place, our design team has started to develop virtual online programs so that people don't have to leave their houses and that they can actually do some of this work online, which has been quite exciting. And it's and I think it'll be something that after this is all over, because this will be over at some point in time, it will make the process bigger, greater, and reach those who can't leave home. So there's a bigger story, a bigger opportunity at play here, which I'm really excited about. The second part of your question is, what are people being triggered about right now? Man, this is just crazy times and stuff that we maybe we heard about it in movies, and there was something about a pandemic that was out there but I'm not sure that we ever really thought it was going to happen. And for us to be living that reality right now, people who had struggles with fear, worry, anxiety, this just amps it up. And for those of us who kind of just took life as it comes, which I would be one of those, it's really easy to go into my patterns of isolating, putting my headphones on and not really paying attention to what's going on. So if you had patterns and behaviors in either direction, this just like turned the volume up to a 10. And yeah, we're trying to find what is the new normal for right now, which is hard.
So as you've been counseling clients or coaching them, guiding them over the last month or 3 weeks, has there been a common theme? Yeah,
I think that in the beginning, it was a lot of fear, doubt, and worry. And I can't believe this is happening. And how am I going to do this? And there's just tons of fear of trying to manage it. Now what I see in the last week is more of a settling in, where people have gotten off the I'm going to get a lot of stuff done, and I'm going to do this perfect when the kids are at home, and I'm going to get this plan. It seems as if people now have leveled into this place of, okay, I don't have to be perfect at this. I can give myself some grace. And the reality is that this could last a lot longer than we thought it was really going to last. So this is what I've started to feel with people, the settling in of, if this lasts as long as what it could last, what do I need? What does this mean? And how do I do this? So and I don't think we're in a position to really process what it means. I think we'll process 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, kind of the trauma of it. or the benefits of it or the downside of it, or all of that processing will come later, because right now we're just in it. We're just living it, and getting through the day 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time, doing the very best we can.
That kind of echoes what Britt Frank said yesterday is, we can't have PTSD because we're still in the trauma right now. So,
right.
Crystal, you've done a lot of studying with Brene Brown and her Daring Way work, and Brene has a new podcast out. Do you want to share any of some of the wisdom that you've kind of heard through her? And I just felt like that might be interesting to kind of tap your brain on that. So for our listeners, I have kind of an idea of how I want the conversation to go, but I just have to kind of listen to my spirit to see what questions come in. So, I did not prep Crystal for majority of these questions. So I'm just curious, because she's kind of the shame and the guilt-free guru right now.
Brene Brown preaches about imperfection and vulnerability. This is a time where we're vulnerable. And if you're trying to pretend and run away from vulnerability, you're going to struggle every single day. We are vulnerable. We're not going to do this perfect. And the best thing in the world that you can do for yourself is to give yourself love, grace, and self-compassion and forgiveness. We've never been here before. So, to hold yourself to a standard that you should be able to keep it together, get stuff done, homeschool the kids, be productive, is setting yourself up to be overwhelmed and stressed out at the end of the day. I heard from one of my clients yesterday, they came in with this, well, I'm home, so therefore I should be able to get more stuff done. And so there was a standard of, well, I'm not at the office working, but I'm working at home. So, since I'm home, I should get the laundry done. I should put 3 meals on the table. And at the end of the day, this person was exhausted and stressed out. And, to just feel that heaviness of realizing that, no, you just took on 2 full-time jobs. And what would be wrong with giving yourself a little bit of grace and a little bit of space to just go, I'm really just doing the very best I can. This is a moment in time where I'm hurting or I'm scared, or just acknowledging all the feelings that you're going through. There's something that came to mind before I got on the call too. Kristen Neff, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the work of Kristen Neff, who is a researcher in the area of self-compassion. And she actually has a beautiful mantra that helps us walk through this place of vulnerability and self-compassion. So everybody right now, and this is a great practice, we do this at Hoffman as well, is everybody take both hands and put it on your heart. So just breathe and put your hands on your heart. And you can close your eyes and just allow yourself to breathe, as if you could breathe air right into your heart space. And just continue to breathe. And now with your eyes closed, just repeat these words after me. This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a part of life, and all humans suffer. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion that I need. And now connect to one thing that you appreciate about yourself. And now connect to one thing that you're grateful for. And now just continue to breathe life into your heart space. And then open your eyes. It's a way to reground, to center, to practice mindfulness, a way to practice compassion and common humanity. We're all in this together. Everybody is just doing the very best you can in circumstances we have never been in before. And self-kindness and self-love. It's the only way we're going to get through this.
So we're talking about us individually, but I wanted to spend some time today talking about relationships and relationships with your kids. How do you take this snapshot in time? Well, it depends on what framework you're in and probably what moment, whether it's a gift to be with your kids or not a gift, especially if you have teenagers or seniors in high school that are suffering and that they're not getting to have their senior experience. What's some guidance you can give to people about parenting right now with kids?
Have a plan, but don't be attached to the plan. I mean, bottom line is you don't spend 24/7 with your kids probably on a normal basis. So everybody is trying to get used to this. And you can have a direction that you want to go for the day, but don't be attached to it. Meet every moment with your kids with presence. So, at 10 o'clock, you may have the scathingly brilliant plan that you were going to do some experiment in science. I don't know, whatever is happening. But if they're not ready, then ask them what they would like to do. Let them be a part of the solution of what's going on. And it may be at that time, it's time to go take a walk. Or maybe it's time to put something on television and make whatever it is that you're watching on television your learning experience. But be flexible. Do it with self-love and self-acceptance. I know one of my clients a couple of weeks ago, she was overwhelmed because the school had sent home, here's the list of things we need you to do. And she's at home trying to do her work at home as well. And she told me, she says it was at that moment she decided that her list of what she was going to do with her kids were to teach them life skills. She had never taught them how to do the laundry. She'd never taught them how to wash the dishes in the dishwasher. She'd never taught them all these things around how the house would run. That she decided, no, this is the learning that I'm going to teach them, and we're all going to chip in together so that we share this time and the productiveness and the success of this time more how it fits us. So she taught them about balancing a checkbook. She taught them about how to organize the garage. I mean, she just did all kinds of things. But what it ended up happening for her is that it was help. They ended up helping. And I thought, gosh, that might have been the best lesson that they could have ever learned. That school became more important, and those life skills and those life lessons were left for when everything else was done.
So when you go to Hoffman, and it can range from people who are multi-billionaires or millionaires to people that have just put it on their last credit card that had some money to go. So
right.
you throw into this group of people, 40 people from different walks of life, and they basically come with their commonness. And I think we're seeing how common we are all right now, no matter, it's not about what we have or don't have, or we're in this, let me take that back. I know there's some of that going on, but just globally, it's really about how we're all in this together. Talk about some of the navigation, because I believe that most people do something like the process, like I did myself, because I was having issues really liking myself, mostly because I didn't like my mother, and I had some unresolved issues with her that I had to go in and clean up. How do people clean up relationships? Right now, we're living on top of each other in some level. What are some tools they can have in this moment with maybe their partner?
Well, it's actually a pretty big question, because chances are whatever was going on before the pandemic came along now, again, it's just exaggerated. So you're not going to fix a problem in the middle of the fire. But one of the things I think that is important is everybody has to have boundaries. Now that we're on top of each other, it's hard, but you have to find your space. I think you've got to ask for it. You've got to find your alone time, your space, and own your own stuff. It's so easy to look across and go, well, if you would do this and if you hadn't have done this, but at the end of the day, it's really looking at what's going on for us, because that's all that I have control over. And if I feel like that I'm about to blow, or I'm getting really stressed and irritable and reactive, then I have to get right with me. And chances are that whatever's triggering me out here does resemble my mom, or does resemble how I felt with my dad, or how I felt as a child. Being cooped up with the family could trigger a whole lot of childhood trauma, could trigger a whole lot of childhood feelings where one is up and one is down. There's a disempowerment of who gets control, who gets the remote and who doesn't, who gets to watch their TV shows and who doesn't. And you may end up feeling like you're 5 again, or you may feel like you're 10, 12, 13 years old back in your childhood. And so you'll react to certain situations like you did at that age. If you feel yourself emotionally reacting to situations in your environment right now, as you would have at 10, 12, 13 years old, it's historical. That you have just transferred what happened in childhood to these people that you're living with. And it's time for you to get some space on that. It's time for you to go journal, go write it down on a piece of paper, and ask yourself, wow, my emotional self right now feels 10. What happened to me as a 10-year-old that is really similar to what's going on here? And what kind of love, compassion, forgiveness does that 10-year-old need? And give it to yourself. So sometimes just writing that out can help. There's something that we do at Hoffman called the quadrinity check. And at the Hoffman process, we separate out aspects of us into 4 parts. We have our intellectual aspect, we have our emotional aspect, we have our body, and then we have our spiritual self. And our spiritual self is that light, knowing, wise, connected to intuition, connected to nature, creativity. It's that piece of you that when you're in the flow of life, you feel, man, I'm grounded, I'm connected, I'm centered. And we call that your spiritual self. So one of the things that you can do too is separate yourself out and ask your intellect, what's happening in my intellectual self? My intellectual self is the one that tries to keep things organized, tries to keep control, tries to keep it all together. What's happening in my intellectual self? What's my intellect need right now? Now go over here to your emotional self. What's happening emotionally? And that's just naming feelings. And by the way, good, bad, okay are not feelings. Those are evaluations of the feelings you're having. So get yourself a feelings list. What am I feeling? I'm feeling sad, fearful, angry, frustrated, overwhelmed. And you don't have to change those. You don't have to change a thing about it, but to acknowledge and recognize that you actually have this emotional bandwidth gives you information about you. So ask your emotional self, what do you need? What's happening? What are you afraid of? And then go to your body and ask your body, what's going on with my body today? What's my body need? And listen. And then get a message from your spiritual self. So here's what happens with that is that you actually give all parts of you a voice. At the end of the day, all of us just want to be seen, heard, and listened to. And the number one person that needs to see, hear, and listen to you is you. Your number one relationship is with yourself. So this relationship that you want to have out here will only happen when you start with the relationship with yourself. So try the quadrinity check. One of the things that the Hoffman Institute is doing right now is every morning on Instagram, it's Hoffman's Instagram page. You can get in on that. You don't have to be a Hoffman grad. You can actually listen to a morning quadrinity check that a teacher will lead you through. It's lovely. It's lovely. Yeah.
Great. Could you give maybe that link afterwards to Eleanor, and she could send it out in the follow-up email? I'm curious about a feeling list. When I went to Hoffman, I thought my feelings were I'm fine, feelings inside not expressed. So can we get an example of a feeling list too, so people can start to name it? Is that possible?
Yeah. Here, it's not real hard to find. If you just Google feelings lists, this is old stuff that's been around. Your children probably have seen feelings lists come through in their elementary school, but it's just a big list of different types of ways that you can feel. We get so programmed into evaluating our feelings or to just naming, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm depressed. And so that's all that's the limiting place of where you feel. And I'm telling you, we've got hundreds of feelings. But we've done a pretty good job over the years of learning to shut that off because it's not very productive from an intellectual standpoint.
Did you talk about the crayons?
Oh, no, I didn't say the crayon. No, I always use the expression that, your feelings is, you get all 64 crayons in the box. If when I was a kid, if they only gave me black and white to color with or green and red, I would have been pretty unfulfilled. So you get all 64 crayons, you get all the feelings in the box. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It actually, your emotional self is starving to be validated, to actually get to show up in your life.
Okay, so talk about validation. Quad check's a good idea. What are some other tools? Me, I love to give people guidance. I want them to be able to grab one thing. If you grab one thing out of today's segment, it can help shift your life forever. One of my coaches, Tom Hill, said, you never know what one person or one message you hear that will shift you forever. So any other thoughts on other guidance that you would share to validate yourself? Because people are bumping up, I believe what you said a little while ago is if your relationship was suffering, if it was suffering because of maybe I'm going to call deeper reasons. I think there's superficial reasons relationships suffer, and I think there's deeper reasons. Mm-hmm. Probably the deeper reasons, this is probably throwing gasoline on that, and it's but maybe the superficial, maybe is actually healing during this time. So once again, give them some other guidance that they could do to help themselves become more validated, so that they can be more peaceful to be around.
Well, there's never an original thought here, but sometimes we're looking for such big things to do. And it's what you've said all along, or we've talked about, is it's the smaller things, if you're just consistent at those, that cause the biggest changes. But right now, appreciations and gratitudes. What do you love? What is going well? What do you appreciate? And let that be your go-to. Put your hands on your heart and reconnect to yourself and go back to, I am grateful for, I appreciate. I think the other thing too is give up the perfect, give up the shoulds. Allow yourself to be more mindful about how you're spending your time. Slow down, be more mindful. You've got time now to, every time that you take a walk or take a step, be more intentional about that. when you're outside, look at the trees, look at the grass, look at the flowers. What do you love about that? What catches your eye? Just be more mindful and intentional about the time that you have. It used to be, before this happened, we were running from point A to point B. The gift that we have right now is that time is precious. So take advantage of that time. Intentional, loving, mindful awareness.
So this is a great time to start to ask questions in the chat section as we go into the second half of our show. Crystal, question is what does it mean to be intentional?
Intentional, I'll give you an example, is a practice that you can do in the morning is the first thing that you get up in the morning is set an intention for the day. You know, my intention is, how do I want to feel at the end of the day? Well, I'd like to feel, let's just say at the end of the day, you'd like to feel more resourceful, more resilient. So today I'm going to move in that intention of looking for things that give me resilience, that give me resources. So my intention could be that I'm going to make sure I spend more time with my dogs today, because I've kind of neglected them for the last couple of days because I've been busy. So I'm going to set an intention. This is my intention of how this is going to go today.
I love this saying, your attention goes wherever your intention is.
Right.
So is that the saying? Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think to answer that is what are you paying attention to? I love this thought when someone says, tell me what you value and then show me your calendar. If you value time with your friends and family, yet there's no time on your calendar for them, you're probably not really and being very intentional and mindful about that, about those relationships. Crystal, I'm curious, what are some of the gifts you've gotten out of this time? Because like you said, you just kind of go with the flow and, don't get rattled too much. What has been, first of all, have you got rattled at all?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay. And
yes.
Okay, well, I'm curious how you got rattled. Yeah, I'm really curious.
Yes. So for a person that is pretty go with the flow and pretty optimistic and hopeful, I wake up in the middle of the night and I find myself worried about the people who are grieving. I worry about the people who are losing their loved ones. And not being able to have connection with them, that people are dying alone. So so that's rattled me. It's rattled me that financially people are, they're going to lose a lot. So no, I'm rattled. But it's a two-sided coin for me, and which is really bizarre, because as on this one side are all the people that I'm talking to that are suffering. It's all the news that I limit my news intake, by the way, but it's all of the grief and loss that we're going to walk through here in 6 months to a year, when the dust settles and we take stock. I predict it's going to be really, really hard. I don't know what it looks like, but it's going to be rough. But here on the other side for me is that I have got to do things that I've dreamed about doing, maybe when I retired. I just spent 10 days at the lake in April, also doing work and being at my lake house. That's never happened. I'm going to end up going back here in another week and probably spending another bit of time to do that. I've had the chance to be at home now for the last, since I left California on the 15th. I've been with my dogs every single day. I've gotten to work in the yard. There's just so many things that I've longed to do that I'm so flippin' happy about. But if I turn that coin over to the other side at the same time, I feel such sadness and such hurt for people. So here's the equal and opposite reaction. The law of physics is that as far as I am over here, I now am this far over here. So I guess I've got all 64 crayons in the box right now.
Well, just thinking about spending that time, I think one of the gifts I've gotten is time, and nothing like having a full calendar just swipe clean at some level. And I think just being intentional about how you refill it. So there's a question from Eleanor. What's the story behind the name Sunlight Connection?
I'm a sun person. I think I was born in the sun. It's my resilience, and it's something that truly I identify with, and I think people always identify in me. So if I had a word, that would be my word. Yeah, and I hope that's what my practice does, is bring hope and sunlight to people when they don't have it.
So when you think about some of the calls you've been on, and I know you were sharing with me how you've picked up a couple new habits that you hope to carry post-COVID. You want to share some of those?
Yes, I'm taking my supplements better. I've got a routine where I get up in the morning and I go work out or I go walk. Chlorophyll, I've become a big fan of chlorophyll right now. I actually can drink it and it doesn't taste horrible. I'm not a big greens person eating greens, but I can drink the heck out of them. So I'm craving my green drinks. I'm just more intentional and mindful. You know, and I'll go back to that word of intention and mindfulness. Now that I have time to be more mindful and intentional about how I spend my day, self-love is doing things that's good for me. And I don't want to catch this thing. You know, I want to put the odds in my favor that I bump my immune system up. So I'm doing a lot more self-love practices.
What about connection, sunlight connection? So you are doing some different ways of connecting, obviously with your clients, doing Zoom. What about with some of your colleagues and friends?
Yeah, one of the fun things that's happened out of this is I've got a couple of other teachers that I have a great connection with at Hoffman. We have a staff of teachers of about 28 of us. And two other teachers and I have a Thursday morning coffee Zoom call every Thursday morning. And, for me, it's nice because it's at 9. For them, they're on the West Coast, so it's at 7 a.m. But every Thursday morning, we're on Zoom, hair, don't care, hats, whatever. And we have a 45-minute hour call. And at this point, I can't imagine not doing that. It's just about the coolest thing ever. So I highly recommend it. Yeah. And you talk about anything, but don't spend the whole Zoom call talking about the news. Talk about things you love and care about. Talk about blow off steam, whatever. But gosh, it just is the greatest.
So once again, this is a great time for questions. If you have any more questions as we start to wrap up here. Crystal, if somebody would ask you, what's your medicine you share with others, what would you say?
Gosh, I probably clarity. I feel like that I'm pretty clear and pretty grounded, and I'm pretty full of hope.
Crystal clear. So if you need some clarity, once again, now's a great time for a question as we start to wrap up. Here's some of the things that you have shared with us today. The quad check, which we will send in the follow-up email, Hadwig Hoffman. We'll also send, I know somebody said they looked up feelings, a lot of stuff came up. We'll send you a feelings list. So we're gonna steal that from Hoffman or borrow it. We're gonna share it forward. We're gonna pay it forward. Self-compassion. I was actually supposed to be in a Kristen Neff workshop in a couple weeks about self-compassion. And if you've not followed her at all, and we also actually talk about some of her stuff in the Small Changes, Big Shifts little book about self-compassion. I think it's just pretty brilliant work. She's doing a wonderful job of doing that. Any other little things that are tweaking at your spirit that you want to share with the audience today? And for those of you on the call that maybe have had some experience with Crystal, we're going to close with how she inspires us. So this is a good time to share those notes.
I think the last thing, I listened to Brene Brown's podcast that she's got going on right now. I highly recommend that. She's got an interview. I don't think it was an interview, but she talks about Harriet Lerner's new book. But I tap into Brene Brown's work right now. I think my last thing is be really careful about what you fill your ears with. This is not the time to be talking to people that are a Debbie Downer. Be really selective about the things you're listening to, how much time you spend on the news. Dive into things that feed your spirit, that make you feel good. Dive into people who make you feel good. One of the things that we listened to the other day on the way home from the lake is, this idea that anxiety is contagious. When you are in a group of people, whoever has the most anxiety, it's hard to not get on board with that. It is contagious. But at the same time, so is calm, so is joy, so is laughter. So get on that train. Practice the most loving, kind thing that you can do for yourself is to fill yourself with people and things that make you feel good. Hopeful, optimistic, joyful.
One of the analogies I use is planting seeds, and hopefully you're taking time right now to plant seeds in relationships, because what I know from being in practice the last several years is the seeds grow, and what grows is what you water. So now is a great time to be watering those seeds and watering those relationships, especially, as Crystal mentioned, with yourself first. The saying that I've had for years is, and it's true for me, once I healed my heart, then I did all the shift that I told myself I should be doing around exercising, around what I'm eating, around the people I'm around. But I had to dive in, and this is a time, once again, you're not going to do some serious therapy work right now. We're in the middle of a trauma, but I think there's some awareness that can come out of it. And my friend Wendy's mentor says, when you're aware, you're halfway there. And so hopefully you're getting more awareness of ways you could really take care of yourself. And listen, I shared, and I believe I shared, I don't know, I've been on other people's programs too. The good news is lots of people are doing this. And the really good news is some people have invited me to share on there. So if I haven't said it here, I think it's, to honor your emotions, but then move through it. And that's what I found myself getting stuck initially, and hence why you're all helping me. So I want to say thank you to all of you for showing up and helping me navigate this time as well. We all need people that help us and cheer us on. And so I want to say thank you for that. So Crystal, before we wrap up, anything else you want to share? Did I trigger any other thoughts there?
Well, no, but Rachel did, and she's one of my people. The importance of having fun and creativity. That is probably the other thing that most people would know me for, and that is play and having fun and having a good time. I'm going to tell you what, if you're not doing something that sparks joy and fun and play right now, or creativity, your soul is dying for that. Your soul wants to be creative. It wants to laugh. It wants to have joy and fun. So figure that out. Phone a friend. Find something that you can get back into color and fun and laughter. Because here's the thing, when you laugh and you're in fun and you're in creativity or you're in play, you're in your body, and your body is always in the present moment. Your body can't be anywhere else. So if you're seeking presence, do things in your body that get you involved of moving, creating, playing, because now you're present. Yep.
You know, I love how we're going to end this now. I know exactly how we're going to end this, and I've never done this on my own show before, but we're going to do it today because I got the idea from Dr. Terry Walls. So thank you for sharing that. So Crystal, just some shout outs. You're probably seeing the chat too. This is amazing. Love, love, love. Love you both. Thanks for holding space for us all.
That's Sean. She's a Hoffman person.
Hey, Sean. I thought you were Hoffman. You know, what I'm thinking about too is, for me, this is my creative outlet. You know, I'm not the person who's coloring or who's doing art. And so what you just gave me permission is to honor my own creativity. You know, I got Russ on the phone who gave us a great recipe. Has anybody made that recipe yet that Russ gave us, who's an amazing cook? And so you made it, Eleanor, huh? Yeah. So this is part of my creativity, is bringing together people. I'm a people collector, and I love to share my friends with you because they're just pretty darn cool. So Diane's one of the best sessions. I love having 64 crayons to play with. So get a box of crayons if you don't have them, if you are good at coloring. Thanks for comparing the feelings. Somebody said about the crayons again, to evaluate my 4 quadrants. The quad check will be great. Thanks for the reminders and uplifting session. You're appreciated. So that's from our audience today, and from our people today. And Joan, you rock. I want to say, you know, just how you inspire me is your steady Eddie, you know, and I loved having that question for you to actually hear kind of what you're struggling with, but you're steady Eddie, because I'm not steady Eddie. I may seem steady Eddie to a lot of people, but it is a roller coaster. I got Eleanor and Emily who work with me. Sometimes it is a shift show because there's so much happening in this mind, and I see the needs of the world and almost too dialed in. And so I would say, having that steady Eddie, I appreciate that about you. I appreciate your words of wisdom, and I appreciate how you're a great doggy mama. So I want to honor you for that. Okay, I got 2 more real quick. This is very helpful to all of us. People are going to forward. That's what you could do. I'd love it if you would invite people to the conversation, even if it's afterwards. You don't know what piece of hope that somebody needs. Because I want to tell you, the first 2 weeks of this, I was on the ledge. People would say, how are you doing? And the honest truth was, I was on the right side of the ledge. I was on the right side of the ledge. But now I'm not even on the ledge. I'm down here. I'm on the ground. I'm thinking about the gifts. I'm thinking about, you know, just doing the next best thing. Today I did the payroll, whatever, PPP. I got that done so I can get my team back on board. And so I'm just taking the next best step that I can do. And I love the advice that I got, and I shared this, and I'm going to share it probably every session, is someone said, are you okay right now? Because I was living too far in the future. I don't know what the future is going to look like for me or you, but I know with intention, I'm going to be more mindful with who I surround myself with, mindful about how I spend my days, mindful about many other things based on this reset. So here's how I want to close today. I want to close, and so I'm going to close with a minute of laughter. And so Eleanor, I need you to be my time clock, and we're just going to do a minute of belly laughing. And then you could pay attention to how that changes your vibration. Does that sound cool? All right, so everybody unmute yourselves. I don't know if I can do it, but if you can all unmute yourselves. All right, all right. Not yet. Actually, since we've not done something like this, what we'll do really, really quick, and I love to do this when I wrap up, is I love to do a little bit of a popcorn effect. So one word that you're feeling right now, and then we'll do 1 minute of laughter, because by the way, it is only 1:21, and I love to. Okay, so popcorn effect. Emily, what are you feeling? One word.
Love.
Okay, Eleanor?
Uplifted.
Crystal?
Fun.
Russ?
Joy.
Joy.
Sean?
Elated.
Yes.
Miriam?
Silly.
Silly?
We're going to laugh. That's silly.
Diane? Diane, what are you feeling?
Re-inspired.
Yes.
All right. Diane P.
Happy.
Yes.
Pam.
Centered.
Vanessa.
Energized.
Yes.
Dorothy.
Comfortable.
Tom.
Calm.
Rachel,
Relax.
Mark,
Fresh.
Maria,
Happy.
Cheryl A,
Grateful.
Joan,
Joyful.
Melody, you're on mute. I don't know if you want to chime in here. Okay, I've got 3 people on mute and I don't know who you are except for Melody. So anyhow, how fun was that? I love it. I love it. I love it. Happy. Melody said happy. Maybe she's on a call. All right. So here we go. Eleanor, you ready?
Yeah.
1 minute. Give me a timer. Let's go.
And go. Halfway.
Only halfway. That's 30 seconds.
Not easy.
Not easy. Are we there yet?
Not easy.
Right. All done.
So I want to tell you, I think that's really good for the lungs. I think that's a good way to clean out the lungs. So some good protection. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Guess what tomorrow is? Fun Friday. And Wade will be joining us. He'll be our guest tomorrow. All right. Go out and get some sunshine.